So what if every unit in your army could make a first turn charge? Let's build a list that can make that happen. Hello and welcome back to Auspex Tactics, the strategy focused 40k channel, where we're all about trying to lead our Imperial forces to victory on the tabletop. Today we'll be continuing with our look at Blood Angels, with a slightly silly list that goes absolutely all in on creating an apocalyptic alpha strike to see just how many first turn charges we can make to hopefully have the enemy army fighting for its life within its own deployment zone right from turn 1. I have included some allies with this to enlist the help of the Raven Guard and their Master of Ambush shenanigans to create a 2000 point list, and we have no less than 13 potential first turn charges, all of which pack a decent punch. So without further ado, let's take a look. So in this list we've gone minimal on troops again, with a Blood Angels battalion and a Raven Guard successor patrol detachment. In this we have a main battle line of all units that can deploy outside of their own deployment zone, hopefully up within 9 inches of the enemy deployment zone, and then a few units that are going to use special tricks to get right close to the enemy on first turn. We have 4 units of scouts in the army, 3 of them are Blood Angels and 1 of them Raven Guard. Each of the Blood Angels squads has close combat weapons, with the sergeant having a Storm Bolter and a Power Fist, to allow them to threaten some hard targets in close combat. I've kept the Raven Guard one a little bit cheaper, just with bolters and a Storm Bolter, to maybe sit back on a midfield objective, though they could certainly get up right in the enemy's face if they needed to. From there we have 3 Invicta tactical warsuits, all Blood Angels and all equipped with autocannons. These guys can also set up within 9 inches of the enemy deployment zone, and with their 10-inch move they should be almost guaranteed to get a first turn charge. And with Red Thirst giving them +1 to wound, they'll be wounding pretty much everything in the game on 2s. I really do quite like the autocannons on my Invicta warsuits, just because it can let them threaten some enemy units behind the front line, and you're very limited with it which targets you can choose with the Incendium cannon, though particularly in this list I could easily see the advantage of swapping out for the Incendium. These guys are very tough and very scary, and provide good units that the enemy will need to try and chew through unless they want their battle line torn up with heavy anti-infantry fire and brutal close combat efficiency. The other unit that will be deploying in the main battle line will be the Raven Guard captain and the squad of 6 assault centurions with hurricane bolters and flamers. The captain will be using the Master of Ambush trait to allow him to position himself and the centurions anywhere that's out of 9 inches from the enemy army or the deployment zone at the start of the first battle round, but before the first turn begins. This will mean that these guys will be able to set up optimally, potentially forward but in cover if we're going second, or maybe just in a position for an optimal charge if we're going first. Assault Centurions are just the last thing that you really want in your deployment zone, with a brutal amount of anti-infantry firepower and melee that can easily kill anything up to a knight. The captain will be there to boost them with reroll 1s both in shooting and assault, and we've given this guy a mastercrafted Power Fist, so he'll be hitting just as hard as a Thunderhammer. So the captain is most definitely a credible threat in his own right. If needed, we could also use the Raven Guard Infiltrator's stratagem to get those Centurions 4 inches plus an advance move towards the enemy army. This one again happens at the start of the battle before the first battle round, so could get them right in place for a first turn charge. For the successor traits for these guys, I've chosen to go for a +3 inch range to their guns to make those flamers better on the assault sense, and +1 to advance and charge. Though honestly I could happily swap out one of these for Master Artisans just to give some more damage to those siege drills and the captain's mastercrafted Power Fist. So that's the main battle line: 4 units of scouts, 3 warsuits, 6 assault centurions, and a captain with his jump pack, all in potentially easy positions for a first turn charge. Now let's move on to the other big punches. First of all, in the Blood Angels HQ section we have a Librarian Dreadnought who will be taking the wings and quickening powers. We'll set him forward as far forward as he can go. He should be easily streamed behind all the other units anyway, and then on first turn he'll move forward 6 inches, hopefully cast wings for another 12-inch move, and could easily be in position for a first turn charge, particularly as both wings and quickening buff his charge roll. This guy's threat range is absolutely enormous, and his combat is very scary indeed. Finally, we have 3 big units of Blood Angels elites. First of all, we have a drop pod with a captain and some death company in it. The captain again has a Storm Bolter and Power Fist, which again will be damaged D3 +1, as this guy will be our Warlord with Artisans of War. for that +1 damage, and he'll also take the Icon of the Angel relic from the new Blood of Baal book. This will be used to give both him and any nearby Blood Angels units reroll to their charge, and as they already get +1 to charge from Red Thirst, that will be a very reliable charge indeed. He'll be running with 8 Death Company, and 2 of them have Power Fists, for a general purpose unit that will make a very nasty dent in both tanks and frontline infantry alike, and they also all have some bolters for a little bit of ranged firepower before they charge in. And finally we have 2 units of Jump Pack elites. First of all we have 10 Death Company with Jump Packs, 5 with Chainsword and Bolters, and 5 with Power Fists and Bolters. These guys will be aiming to start fairly far forward in the deployment zone, and use the Forlorn Fury stratagem to get them 12 inches plus an advance move up the board, ready for them to make another 12-inch movement and hopefully get ready for another first turn charge. Death Company deal a horrendous amount of damage in close combat. These guys should really put a very nasty dent in whatever they touch. Also they may be able to synergize by being able to move in within 3 inches of the captain with the Icon of the Angel for a rerollable charge. Finally we also have some Sanguinary Guard, who will hopefully be using Wings of Sanguinius turn 1 to pick them up off the board and put them down anywhere within 9 inches of the opponent, and these guys will absolutely certainly be trying to land at least one model within 3 inches of that captain coming out of the drop pod, again to profit from his reroll charges and guarantee that charge. These guys are all armed with Power Fists, so if there is any enemy armour around, these guys will be the ones to try and put it down, and of course they get full rerolls to hit because of their special rule when they're within 6 inches of the Warlord, which they most likely will be if they come down next to that captain. Once the list is in combat, we'll certainly be looking to wrap and trap any exposed enemy infantry to prevent them falling back and prevent the units that are touching them from being shot the next turn. But the main aim is just to throw so many threats in the opponent's face turn 1 that they're not going to be able to deal with that many of them, and whatever's left will be able to do horrendous damage to their army straight away. I mean, who knows which you'd shoot out of Assault Centurions, a bunch of scouts with Power Fists, Invictors, Death Company, Sanguinary Guard, and some very fighty characters. This isn't really supposed to be the most out-and-out competitive list. I know that it's massively compromising on the objective game, and could have some very bad matchups for armies that are either coming in from reserves themselves, or have decent screening, particularly an army that could set up a big screening unit in the midfield, say one that has a unit of 10 Space Marine scouts, meaning that all of the tricks that lead to your units being set up just outside 9 inches of the enemy will be pushed back quite a bit. This list is also incredibly first turn dependent, meaning that you're going to be finding any game that you go first much easier than any game that you go second, due to being able to use all of your potential first turn charge units fresh, rather than having a bunch of them shot off the board because they're close to the enemy and exposed to the maximum amount of firepower or counter charges. All that being said, I do think that this would be quite a scary list for several armies to face. There really are a lot of threats, any one of which could reap major damage if left unchecked, and particularly in certain deployment maps such as Dawn of War, you don't really have all that much space in the deployment zone to hide from all of these charging units, so something is most definitely going to be charged every single turn. Overall, I think that this will be a very fun list to play, and I suspect that you will probably win very big or lose very big in many games, just due to how hard the units hit, but how fragile they are in comparison with some of the other builds about in the meta at the moment. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below, and any obvious tweaks or improvements that you'd make to the list. It's always good to brainstorm some ideas. We're getting towards the end of the Blood Angels series at the moment, so check back shortly for more content. I'll be doing a big comparison of all of the buffing characters for Blood Angels in a future video, so feel free to stick around if you'd like to see that, and consider subscribing to Auspex Tactics. If you are enjoying my videos, feel free to contribute to my Patreon to help support the channel. Thanks again for listening, and I'll hope to see you guys next time.